Hello friends, welcome to the ATC Double Cut. My name is Micah Woods. In this episode, I'm going to catch up on a few recent blog posts, some things that I've been writing about that I want to share with you for those of you who like to listen to this kind of stuff. And the first one is about the Turf GvX. I'm probably going to be doing some more explanation of this maybe with a guest. I'm thinking of giving a call to Jason Haynes and seeing if he wants to talk about this with me. This is a blog post that I wrote in August, and the title is The Turf GvX Growth versus Expected. And the Turf GvX was previously called the growth ratio, and it was previously also referred to as the turfgrass speedometer or turf speedo. And we thought it would be better to give it a really unique and specific name that was related to exactly what it stands for and what that number represents. If it's growth ratio, it's not quite sure what that ratio is. That's not inherent in the name. And the Turf Speedo has some other issues where people might visualize a Speedo brand swimsuit related to turf, and that isn't quite so professional. So Turf GvX is something that is unique, and the G stands for growth, the V stands for versus, and the X stands for expected. So what we're looking at is how much is the grass growing compared to how much it's expected to grow. It turns out to be a really useful tool, and in this blog post, which is a short 2-minute read, I said that it is a new name for the growth ratio. It is the Turf GvX, and I wrote, and I quote here, "I'm pleased to introduce a new name for the same metric, Turf GvX. This rolls off the tongue, makes a nice Turf GvX hashtag, and it is a short form of turfgrass growth versus expected." And I put the equation in there, and I put a number of links. I've renamed on both the Pace Turf site and on the ATC site. I've renamed all the posts that were previously referring to the Speedo or the GvX. I've put in the titles and all of the links, I've put it to Turf GvX. So if you look at the related posts at the bottom of this particular page, there are 5 posts that show up in the related posts. These are Turf GvX looks like this, a nitrogen amount that's far too small, or is it? Another one has the title just the GvX equation, and another one is nitrogen rate as a pendulum swing. So all of these types of posts are related to Turf GvX, and you can study it if you want to. I don't know. This is one that's kind of funny because it took me such a long time to understand what this meant and how it could be useful. And now once I understand it, it just seems so easy that we're measuring the growth. We measure the growth by the clipping volume, and then we compare it to how much the grass is expected to grow. When we get that from the growth potential, and the growth potential is something that we get from temperature. So if the temperatures are suitable for growth, then we're going to expect the grass to grow relatively more. And if the temperatures are freezing, for example, we expect no growth. And so we would be comparing how much the grass actually grows to the expected growth, whether that is a small amount or a large amount. And it turns out that is surprisingly useful. It's a useful application of clipping volume. And I will be talking more about this and trying to explain to people how this can be used, because once you get it, it's really easy. But until you grasp that, I think a lot of people, and I was one of them too, don't quite grasp what the particular insight is with this that makes it so useful. Let's see. I had a couple notes here. Oh, yeah. We're going to go through 4 posts. Another one I wanted to talk about is top ATC Double Cut episodes. Now, they are not ones like this one, I will tell you that. I looked through, after doing this show for almost 3 years, I found the episodes that had the most listens. That is, they're hosted on a server. And so when somebody plays that, when somebody clicks play to listen to an episode, then that registers as a listen. And that is something that I now am up to. This is like the 150 some episodes. So, when I looked at this, I think it was at 153, and I checked which ones were listened to the most, and I picked the top 6, and they're in order. And I put links to these, of course. Number one, the one that's been listened to the most is with Adam Miller, and we talked about sand and OM246 and clipping volume. Number 2 is one with Bill Kreuzer, where we talked about growth rate and plant growth regulators. Number 3 was the one with Dr. Kreuzer about wetting agent reapplication intervals and adjusting those by growing degree days. Number 4 was with Chris Trittabaugh on growth rate and nitrogen and disruption. Number 5 was on sand top dressing rates, soil organic matter, cultivation with Chad Schmidt. And number 6 is about the growth ratio, or GvX, in the episode that was before we renamed it. So Jason and I would have been referring to it as the growth ratio, but we would now call that the GvX. And that one was number 6. And you'll notice the reason why I said that they are not ones like this one is you'll notice that all 6 of those have guests. So I understand that people are listening more to the shows that have guests. And sometimes I just like to record these, though, and get some information out there for those who really want to listen to this type of stuff. I picked one more that I want to recommend that I think more people should listen to, and that's one with Brian Whitlark from the USGA Green section. The title of that was Terminology of Turfgrass Soils, Total Organic Material, or OM246, and Soil Organic Matter, which is also called humus. And those are 2 different tests. There's different terminology for those types of organic matter or organic material in the soil, and understanding that and being very fluent in those numbers and understanding what they mean can be really, really useful. So I put links to all of those episodes, and I put links to the entire episode catalog, and I put links to the show on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts. So if you're interested in looking through some of the back catalog and checking out some of those top episodes, the ones that have been listened to the most, they're all in this particular post. As usual, I will put a direct link to all of the main blog posts that I have referenced in this episode. I will put that in the show notes. And I did not put in this blog post, I did not show the number 1 podcast episode of all time that I've recorded so far. And that's not actually on the ATC Double Cut. That's on my other podcast, ATC Office Hours. And that was the one with Richard Forsyth from Royal Melbourne Golf Club in Australia, where we talked about managing putting greens specifically to have really firm conditions. And he talked about the maintenance practices that he does, which might be surprising for some people to find out that the greens that are renowned for such firmness don't get top dressed very often. It was a surprise to me when I first heard that, and That episode has well over 1,000 listens, and that's one that beats anything that I've recorded so far on the ATC Double Cut. Then another one that I want to mention, we've got a football pitch performance workshop coming up in Bangkok on November 18th and 19th. So that's a post that has the poster announcing this, and the guests who are speaking at this include Warren Scott, who is the senior grounds manager of Liverpool Football Club. So he will be talking with us about management of pitches in the Premier League and the type of management that they do and the type of measurements that they make to try to optimize both the pitch performance for player safety and the performance of the pitch for the grass and for the playability of high-level football. And then Jonathan Teo is the pitch architect for Singapore Sports Hub. He's managing Zoysia, and it's a lay and play type of solution where they move that pitch in and out of the stadium depending on the condition and depending on the type of match that they're trying to put on, depending on, whether it's a concert or whether it's a rugby or whether it's football or whatever. And then I'll be talking a little bit also about some different tropical grasses. So this is a 2-day event in Bangkok, and if you're interested in that, check it out. That is a event that's coming up in November. And the final post that I want to talk about is titled 7 Minutes of Outstanding Contributions. And this is announcing, which you may have seen on TurfNet or the press release from the GCSAA. I think there were also articles at Golfdom and Golf Course Industry magazine about doctors Wendy Gelernter and Larry Stowell being awarded by the GCSAA with the Outstanding Contribution Award, and that's going to be officially presented to them in February 2025 at the GCSAA Conference and Show in San Diego. I just want to talk a little bit about some of these outstanding contributions because I uploaded all of the 29 articles. Let's see, what did I do? I think maybe I uploaded the 29 articles that they wrote for Golf Course Management magazine that I found, and that's a lot of articles. I think I've written maybe 2 articles for Golf Course Management magazine, and they wrote 29. They were also co-authors on the ones that have my name on it too. So they've written so much on so many topics and shared it, because not every, I've been successful in my career and I don't have to publish in GCM. It's sort of like, if you want to share information to the audience of the GCSAA, then a very nice way to do that is to write articles and publish them in GCM magazine. And they did that extra effort to do that. They didn't have to, but they wanted to share that information. So they've shared about salinity and overseeding and the growth potential and MLSN and pest management and yellow spot and rapid blight and so many things that they shared in so many different ways. And I thought it's just so wonderful that such fine people who have made such outstanding contributions have been chosen to receive this award. So I used Google's Notebook LM AI service, and I uploaded the articles that they'd written, and I also uploaded the nomination letters. And then it generated an audio overview that described some of those outstanding contributions that they'd made. And I put a link to listen to that in this blog post. And it's only 7 minutes, and you can speed it up if you want to up to 2 times speed, so you can listen to it in 3.5 minutes, and you'll hear about many of those Outstanding Contributions. So that's why I gave the blog post the title, 7 Minutes of Outstanding Contributions. They just did so much. And, I put the picture of me and Wendy in San Diego, and I was holding a couple rare first edition copies of my book, A Short Grammar of Grainkeeping. And if you look at that book on the cover, I have some equations that are kind of faded below the title. And one of those equations is the growth potential curve, which they invented. So I thought it's very appropriate that that particular image was the featured image for this post. And, growth potential has so much impact all over the world. I think for people in the United States, they may not use it as much as people do in Europe or in Japan or in other parts of the world. But I think growth potential is so widely used now, and that's something that did not exist until they came up with it. And just this morning in my work with Pace Turf, I was downloading some of the files that are basically some of the reference PDF files that are on the Pace Turf website. And so I was kind of on the back end of the server before we make a change to a different server. And I just wanted to make sure that I could easily have all of these files and have them stored on my computer, so they're not just stored on the Pace Turf server, just as a bit of a backup. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I finally did it. And it's what was it? 335 items. 335 multiple page files that are reference guides from anything from nematode identification to phosphorus purpling explanations for why bent grass turns purple sometimes, to, especially in cold weather, for example, to all kinds of stuff about sand particle sizes. It covers everything. Salinity, how to negotiate when you're getting reclaimed water, how to negotiate that contract. The range of information is just incredible. And I realized it's 335 items. And that would make maybe 4 books, because I have other books, not just A Short Grammar of Greenkeeping, but in Japan, I've got my my book called Maika no Jikan, or Maika's Time. That book has about 36 articles in it, 36 articles that I wrote. Each one of those articles is about 1,200 words in English, and it's published on about 2 full pages in the magazine. And then 36 of those were put together into a book. And I'm now up to 199 of those articles written. And I realized that is, if we just pick the best ones of those, that's about 2 or 3 books worth of material. I would like to think enough of them are permanent or timeless in a way. I would like to think enough of them are timeless that might be 3 good books worth of material. Well, what I just downloaded this morning from the Pace Turf website is, first of all, a number of those are longer than 2 pages, and there's 335 of them, not 199 of them. So I just had the idea that, like, wow, there is just so much information that, because it was developed over the past 30 years or so, not all of it is, and it was developed by a company, and so not all of it is archived, I don't think, on the turfgrass information file. So one thing we can do with Pace Turf is share a bit more of that, and that's something that I am excited to do, because a lot of that is just so useful. So I'm sure that we will be hearing more about this as the GCSAA conference approaches and as there is more information shared about Larry and Wendy receiving this award. That's all I have for now. I just wanted to go through those few blog posts, remind everybody about the Turf GvX having a new name, and look for more about that because we don't really need to use the term growth ratio anymore. Even though it's 2 months on since it's been renamed, I still hear some people talking about growth ratio, and I would encourage you to use the new terminology Turf GvX to make it clear for everybody. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be back soon. And I think I'm going to have a number of guests. So some of the upcoming episodes may have more listens because I know people do listen more to the episodes that have guests. And of course, I like to talk with people and learn things and then share that information with you. So I'm looking forward to those episodes with guests as well. I will sign off now and be back again soon, but signing off now for ATC from Bangkok, Thailand. I'm Michael Woods. Bye-bye.